Sam's tax traffic right now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hit the gavel.
Pretty good.
Thanks for paying attention.
It is a game.
I call this meeting of Lakeberry Toastmasters Club 6440 to order. Before I proceed with the meeting, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. And please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our club mission is to provide a supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. I'd like to, you could help me welcome our Toastmaster for today.
Thank you, Kerri. Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
I am truly honored to be your Toastmaster this morning. And I will do my best to keep a dynamic meeting this morning. Woo-hoo. Our meeting today is how to introduce yourself at a networking event. Before we begin with our theme, let's introduce our technical table. And we have this morning a grammarian, Mike.
Here's my function to give you guys the word of the day. The word of the day I chose was languish. It's a great word. Let me go ahead and use it in a sentence real quick. On paper. Excuse me, the definition is to be weak, to become weak, feeble, lose strength, or vigor. The crops languish from the lack of rain. That's something to think about. And I'll be listening to see who uses that word. So, it's fine if you don't use it, but that's not our part. I'll give it at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. And we have our timer this morning, Kerri. Please tell us what timer you
My function is to time the speakers, evaluators, and table topics participants to ensure that they meet their timing requirements. The speeches today are 5 to 7 minutes, so you'll see a green card at 5, yellow at 6, red card at 7. Evaluators have 2 to 3 minutes, so a green card at 2 minutes, yellow at 2:30, and the red card at 3 minutes, and table topics are a minute, so 30 seconds for the green card, 45 seconds for the yellow card, and at 1 minute you'll see the red card. And I'll
Thank
keep
you,
my
Kerri. And we have our up counter this morning, Ernst. Please tell us what is an up counter.
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow members, and honored guests. I will not languish to do a great job as the ad counter. As a card-carrying member of the International Accountants Union, my function is to listen for the use of filler words such as you know, so, okay, and other audible pauses as fillers. I will be noting if members perform any double clutches, which means to say things twice, such as this means. Finally, I will also include things which might be distracting, such as lip smacks. I will present my report during the evaluation portion of the meeting. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ernst. We have our agendas, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only change that we need to make on our agenda is our general evaluator role.
He's in traffic right now, so.
He is in
By
traffic.
4.
You can't evaluate a meeting.
That's true. That's true.
Stephany.
Stephany, are you in for the role?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, okay. That was fast. Thank you, Stephany. Raise your hand if you feel like networking events languish your spirit. They do to me, I don't know to you. This is what happened to me. The anticipation of a meeting and introducing yourself to a group of strangers only brings agony. I promise, the night before, I cannot sleep, I wake up like 5-10 times, because the next day I have a networking event. So you are like, to be or not to be, that is the question. You ask yourself while attending these kind of meetings or events. Fear no more. This morning, we are going to learn 6 easy steps on how to successfully introduce yourself at a networking event. Step number 1, say your full name. How silly is that? It happened to me. Before knowing how to introduce myself, I went to these networking events without a name tag, without business cards. Hey, hi, I'm Alex. Alex, like, how people are going to remember me? 1 second. How people are going to remember just by saying Alex? How are they supposed to remember me? If you want to develop a professional connection with someone at a networking event, you need to introduce your full name and last name. For example, hi, my name is Brad Pitt.
Oh, wow.
Woo-hoo! How do you compare that? Hi, my name is Brad. Who is Brad? Everybody's Brad. They will more likely, if you say your name and your last name, to remember you. Step number 2, repeat the name of the person you are meeting. Repeating the name of a person at a networking event can go a long way. For example, at the beginning, you said, hi Steven, I am Brad Pitt. At the end of the meeting, when I talked to him and we made a connection, I'm going to leave. It was nice, very, very nice meeting you, Steven. Have a wonderful day. We repeat the name of the person at the beginning when we meet in the person and at the end. Step number 3, use appropriate body language. Your body language should communicate that you are confident and professional. Stand with your head high and your back straight and walk slightly faster than you normally would. That shows that you're efficient and you're methodical. Maintain eye contact when you meet a person and give the person a firm handshake. I don't know if you remember a speech that I did before that, the handshake like a dead fish. No, you make sure you get a good handshake. Speaking positive, upbeat tone of voice and show that you are happy with what you do. Before going to our next step of the meeting, I just want to recap. The first step is say what?
Full name.
Step number 2, repeat
Repeat
the
the name.
words at the beginning, at the end.
Yeah.
And step number 3,
Appropriate body.
Body
plan for you. This begins our first part of the meeting, designed for prepared speeches. This morning we have 2 speakers. Each of these speeches has been prepared in advance and will have a time limit depending on the Toastmasters manual that they may be working from. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, it is a great pleasure for me to introduce our first speaker this morning. Although having spent almost his entire career advising companies, schools, and non-profit organizations on their finances, our first speaker told me, I hope he doesn't mind for me to share, he was doing a long-distance relationship at the time, and he was warned, I'm quoting, "You better get your butt back to Orlando or we are over." That was the warning. You better get your butt back to Orlando or we are over. What other motivation he needed to find a job within a couple of months? He had been a Toastmaster member of this club over a year, and he had been diligently working toward completing the Competent Communication Manual. This morning, he's going to share some research about what may be considered a sensitive topic for parents. Presenting project number 7, researcher topic titled, "To Open or Shut Your Mouth." Please join me welcoming Martin Bell.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and good morning, fellow Toastmasters, friends, and honored guests. I have to say, of all the speeches that I've had to prepare, today I'm the most nervous. In fact, part of me still wants to call in sick and run out and not even do the speech. That's how sensitive it is, and that's how uncomfortable it's been for me in preparing this speech. I'm faced with that classic dilemma that we all have from time to time. One of our friends shares with us a thought or an activity, something that's taking place in their life. And we, as their friend, want to be supportive. We're friends, right? But part of us also wants to say, hey, perhaps what you're doing is not the best decision. Maybe you want to think about it a little bit more. So the question is, do you open your mouth or do you shut your hole? Right? Specifically, one of my friends, actually stopped at my best friend, shared with me about a month ago that he and his wife were thinking of holding their daughter back in school. Two thoughts immediately came to my mind. First is, are we talking about the same child? Is this a child that I've known for several years and been playing with, who has a terrific memory? I mean, if you play Go Fish or one of those games, she can recapture where different pieces and jigsaw puzzle pieces and cards have been. Is she also the one with the greatest imagination I've seen, who literally can make up any story or any game at any time in any situation without any toys? Is she also the one that remembers the names of all the different animals and dinosaurs? Second, I wanted to scream out, what are you thinking? I mean, I'm in my 40s, but I remember when I was back in grade school. Kids are freaking mean, right? If kids are different, if you know that they're a little bit different, maybe you know they should be with you and not in another class. Or maybe they're spending time apart from the main group. What does that say? I mean, kids can be mean. Are you prepared to put your child through that experience, possibly? So here I am, and I've done a little bit of research on the topic. And as many of you know, I'm not a parent, but perhaps for those parents or aspiring parents, the research and some personal experiences and subject matter experts can help if faced with this decision. So I took a look at the research, and I'm not going to bore everybody with the details, but over several decades, a lot of research points to the fact that retaining a student might not necessarily help to improve them academically. And in fact, the stigma of being held back can actually do some long-term damage in terms of confidence. That being said, over the past 10 years, there's been several studies that have shown the opposite. Studies that have shown in tests where students who were basically scoring on a similar level with regards to a reading test or some other academic test, scoring right around a similar level with those that were passed through and others that were retained, over time didn't necessarily see any differences in high school graduation rates. In fact, in 2009, there was a prominent study by, I forget their names right now, I should know this, it's a research speech. But in 2009, a very prominent study came out saying there was no difference in high school graduation rates. And also in 2013 in New York City, there was a very large study done by the RAND Corporation, which also showed a similar outcome. Kids in New York City with very similar traits, that either passed or held back. And at the end of the day, wasn't really too much difference in high school graduation rates or that success. However, in 2014, just in this past September, a very large study came out in which a Notre Dame sociologist studied over 35,000 kids and results from the 1980s, in which many different characteristics were also taken into consideration, family traits, income, and whatnot. It showed that there was a greater than 60% chance that a student who was retained might not graduate. Seems like a lot. So, I know what my own personal opinion is, and I didn't want the research to corroborate my own personal opinion. So I had to go outside of the research. I decided to ask some subject matter experts. And who are the experts? Teachers. I'm fortunate that two of my other best friends from high school have teachers as wives. We've both been teaching for over 20 years. And they offered some simple advice. They said, ask your teachers what the specific things are that lead you to this decision. Why are you telling me as a parent, academically or behaviorally, that suggests we need to hold your child back? Can they recognize rhymes? Can they count to 100 by 5s or 10s? Can you read them a short story, ask them questions, they know what you're talking about? Importantly, behaviorally, can they spend time on task? Are they struggling socially with the other kids? What are the specific reasons? One of my friend's wives has over 24 years of experience, has never had held a child back. And she wanted to understand why a teacher would offer such a recommendation in January when it's not till August that you be preparing for the new school year. So, in terms of sharing research and some subject matter experts, I still today come before you with that same question. Do I open my mouth or shut my hole? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Martin. 1 minute for evaluations. One minute up. Thank you, Kerri. Continue with the meeting. We are going to move now to our 4th step on how to introduce yourself at a networking event. Step number 4, give a 1-sentence description of what you do. What do you say when a new connection asks you, what is that you do? What do you say? Do you launch a 10-minute story about yourself? It happened to me on conference call, listening to someone to speak for 20 minutes about themselves. I've done it before as well. And the answer is absolutely not. You should be prepared to give a 1-sentence description of what you do that give the following information. Who are you professionally? Are you a teacher, Are you a financial advisor? Are you a pastor? Who do you work with? Do you work with children? Do you work with financial organizations? And the next one is, what do you do? Do you help second grade children learn how to write and read? Or do you help the homeless? Or do you help finance organizations? Now put your sentence together. State who you are, who do you work with, and what do you do. That should give a one-sentence description of what you do if somebody asks you. Step number 5. This is truly important. Follow up with a question. How many times you ask someone, what do you do, and that person, after talking 10-15 minutes about themselves, they leave? You're there hanging. They never ask me in return, what do I do? Step number 5, follow up with a question. If the person has asked you, what do you do first? Don't just walk away and praise yourself for a job well done. Instead, ask the person what he or she does in return. This is not only polite, but shows that you have a real interest in this other person's career. And you want to build a meaningful relationship. Are you ready for the last step?
Yes.
Oh, I hear crickets. Okay, yes. Step number 6 and the last one, say goodbye like a professional. Don't just wave and say, hey, nice meeting you, bye, see you, and walk from the person. Anyone you meet at a networking event can have a potential help in your future. So make sure that you have and you make a good eye contact, you repeat the person's name at the beginning, at the end, you exchange business cards or any other piece of relevant information before you walk away. Our second speaker is a man who has been a key positive force behind this club. From a very young age, he was motivated and inspired by his parents and the church to love God. Our speaker received a personal call from God to become a pastor. His extraordinary work with the local community involved giving a spiritual direction, praying for people, and teaching the scriptures. He joined Toastmasters as an ongoing personal and professional development. Presenting from the Entertaining Speaker Manual, project number 1, the entertaining speech titled 20-Day Health Check. Please join me welcoming Advanced Communicator Bronze, Gus Davis.
The general evaluator is out there.
It has been said that in 21 days, you could change a habit. In 21 days, you could start a new character that will build wealth, health, and relationship. 21 days. Sometimes that is true, sometimes it is not. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes 21 days will just lead you into languish. And just languish where you are for 21 days. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, let me tell you about my 21 days, which started on the 5th of March to the 26th of March. You knew my 94-year-old in Sierra Leone, West Africa, passed away. And immediately, I started to think, should I go home or should I stay? Do you know why I was vacillating? Because Sierra Leone in West Africa has Ebola. It's one of the countries, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea. Should I go or should I not go? As I was processing this, I talked to my leaders at the church, my family, my friends, my medical friends who are in the disease control, place in Atlanta, public health, and all of these people, I talked to them. And they said, it may be proper for you to go with certain precautions and care you can take. So they gave me all of this. Can you imagine some of the things the disaster management people gave me? They gave me gloves, because you shouldn't touch. They gave me a mask that I can wear, and I had tons of hand sanitizer and chlorine wet wipes. Because Ebola disease is only transmitted through body contact. So I thought I was prepared, and I took all precautions, so I went over there. And while I was over there, I followed every instructions they gave me. There's no handshake. Everybody stays about 3 feet away from each other. And also everybody's always washing their hands with chlorine and other things. So I went through those days. I was home for about 8 days. I thought I was going to be contaminated or infected. So I took all the precautions, and I was very pleased. I was safe. Actually, my cousins, they had planted a young man with me that was following me everywhere to make sure that I kept the 3 feet. I washed my hands. I used my hand sanitizer. I just thought I was weird among the people. Coming back to the United States, you fill out these forms on the plane. It's not the regular one you fill when you're coming from Italy. These are forms. Where have you been? For your honeymoon. Where have you been? What was your contact? They are tracing this. Immediately you walk out of the plane. We flew from Freetown, we flew to Brussels, and then from Brussels to JFK. You come out of the plane, your name is already on the list. Can you imagine that? Your name is on the list. You walk out with your passport. They know where you're coming from. Immediately you are met by the people from the health department. They call your name, Mr. Davis, this way, sir. And so you go into a room. The first thing they do is, to take your temperature with these laser infrared things that take your temperature, and you sit down and they start to question you, really trying to get where you've been, what have you been doing. That was very interesting. After that, then they give you a packet. Here are a couple of things in the packet they give you. They gave you a thermometer, so you should take your temperature every day. They give you a phone, one of these flip phones, so that you can call if you have a temperature. And next, they give you a booklet that talks about where you should record all your symptoms every day, daily symptoms. So that is done, and they know you're okay. Then I had an awful moment. I'm sitting with the lady at the CDC table. I said, okay, ma'am, I have 2 questions. As a Toastmaster, you always have a question. I said, my physician told me that I should take my malaria tablets because I've been there in this country so I don't get sick. She said, yeah, take it 4 hours before your temperature test. Okay, so I have another question. I said, I am going to be quarantined. She said, what? You can't say that. Are you infected? And I said, oh, I thought that was what happened when I told the people at the church and my home that I'm going to be quarantined. Politically, that was not the right word to use. Because you are only quarantined if you are infected. And so this lady had to take me to another office, and I got another temperature and questions. And he said, sir, you are not going to be quarantined. You are going to have a 21-day health check. Hello? 21-day health check. So with that, I exited and I got on the plane and we landed in Orlando. Immediately you land in Orlando, my phone rang. Checked my phone, and my phone had, there was a message on my phone. One of the people from the Florida Health, Seminole County, had already called. Networking, communication. So from New York, they've already told you have a traveler. By the way, that's the way they call it. They don't use your name. You call a traveler. A traveler has landed in Orlando, and you have to now start to monitor this traveler. So with that, came home. Now my wife was to pick me up at the airport. We had talked about this, and everybody just did not want to touch me. The car pulled up, and I looked, and there were things in the passenger seat, and in the back were all those things. And my wife was just saying, well, you could sit at the back. I said, wow. So I came home. So for 21 days, I was at my house, And every morning at 8 a.m., someone from the health department would come and take my temperature and record it down, because that's the way they want to find out. But they would stay 3 feet from me. So that went on for 21 days, and every day they would tell, you can go out, don't just make contact. So you know what I did? I go to the beach, I would do my 5K, I'll walk around, and at the end of the 21 day, they would come back. I had people telling me, don't send me an email, your email may be infected with Ebola. Imagine that, don't send me an email. So at church, I'm standing there, when my 21 days over, let me tell you what happens finally. When the 21 days over, the lady comes in, we do the temperature, and then finally, they will give you an official letter that you've been monitored for 21 days and you are free. And you can shake hands. I know.
Don't lose that.
Don't lose that. So that's my 21
This is
days.
an official one, right?
Yes, it's official. So I go to church that Sunday, and this lady, God bless her heart, came up to me and said, oh, Pastor Gus, so sorry for your Ebola. And the guy standing behind me said, you better stop that rumor. So I didn't start it. I'm sure she meant to say, sorry for the loss of your mom. You know what was all of this about this 21 days? It was false evidence appearing real, and that is fear. But I am so excited to go through that experience. And I'm Toastmaster.
Thank you, boss. 1 minute for evaluations.
Yes.
Good, 1 minute up. We're moving now to the second part of the meeting, which is dedicated to our table topic portion. And I promise you, you are not going to languish on this session. Our table topic master has been an exceptional Toastmaster member for the past 12 years.
Wow.
12 years. Over that time, she served in almost every office role several times over. Her passion, dedication to promoting public speaking as an important component of empowerment is truly inspiring. We estimate that she has personally inspired at least 100 new speakers and has set an extraordinary yes, you can example for many more. She has inspired me. We see her as capable, confident, and fluent, never at a loss for words. But what you probably don't know is that this woman was passed on many job promotions early in her career because of her lack of confidence in speaking in front of audiences. She got from awkward tongue-tied silence to an eloquent frontline spokesperson. She was promoted as the Director International Support of a nationwide publisher, education, and media company. She has also achieved the highest recognition a Toastmaster member may receive. Please join me in welcoming distinguished Toastmaster Julia.
She's now my personal PR person. You're gonna come with me to every networking opportunity I have. Thank you, that was wonderful. For our guests, this portion of the meeting is the impromptu question. It makes every hand pretty much sweaty, if you will. It's the opportunity to speak off the cuff for us to really hone on that skill set of what do you say when you're asked a question right off the cuff. So here we go. Are you game to participate?
Sure. Yes.
All right. We're talking about networking opportunities and how you introduce yourself. So if you could be introduced to anyone in the world, who would that be? Macarena. Woo!
If I could be introduced to anyone in the world, who would that be? That is a very tricky question. I would probably want to be introduced to the President of the United States of America. Why? Because I would like to sit down with this person and discuss a couple of things, not just on my mind, but on the people's minds as well. I feel that there may be some things that just I need to get out on the table, and hopefully the president will be willing to listen. That's it.
All right. I have no doubt that the president will listen to you. All right, you're in an elevator with a stranger who introduces themselves. What is your 30-second introduction? Donna. Me?
Hi, my name is Donna Kotler. I am the proud parent of my son Zachary Brown, who's valedictorian of his graduating class, so we'll talk about him instead of me. I am an accountant by trade, by career. Right now I'm actually a stay-at-home mom and taking care of the house for the time being until he heads off to college, which is very, very soon. And I'm just happy to be here. And this is a great opportunity for me to see what you guys do. I'm really impressed by all this. So thank you for having me.
Well done. Thanks for paying attention. My last question. Tell us about your last networking experience. Kerri.
Yeah, I don't like that question, so I'm going to answer your first one. I don't really go to, I go to some networking things, but I couldn't even tell you the last time I've been to one. It's been a little while. So the person that I would want to be introduced to is Zach Perlin, who is a violinist. I saw him in concert when I was 9. He has polio, and he is just an amazing violinist and tries to help a lot of people around the world and things like that. So that is who I would want to be introduced to.
Thank you, Kerri. And with that, I will pass the lectern back to our wonderful, beautiful Madam Toastmaster, Alexandra.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Julia. That was excellent. We now move to the third part of the meeting, devoted to our evaluations. Our general evaluator was originally Sam, but Stephany was very kind to step into the role. Our general evaluator this morning has been an extraordinary Toastmaster for the past 7 years. She has been a tremendous inspiration for new members and existing ones. She has a great energy, and she has a tremendous as well inspiration and mentoring skills. She had took under her wing many of us and guide us in the right direction. She also achieved the highest recognition a Toastmaster member may receive. Please join me in welcoming distinguished Toastmaster Stephany Byrne.
Pick up my pants, I was wading through that stuff this morning. Thank you, Alexandra. That was tremendous. The role of the general evaluator is to introduce the evaluators for the prepared speeches we heard, to take the report from the technical table, and to give an overall synopsis of today's meeting. It's the educational portion. What we did well, what we can improve, how we do it. I will begin by calling up our general evaluators, our speech evaluators, who will give insightful, something to grow on commentaries of the speeches they heard, and starting with competent communicator, Erika Benfield. She will evaluate Martin Bell's speech.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, good morning, especially Martin. I commend the fact that you chose a very interesting topic and you shared with us how you languished to be up here this morning. You shared a personal story and you tied it to a question to involve the audience. You made it very personal, and for a second there, I thought you were gonna choke up for a moment. You know, you gave a little quick lip smack, and I was like, oh my goodness. So you caught my attention. The project was research your topic, and after you made it clear what the topic was, you started giving us facts. And as you pointed out, some of those facts, you couldn't remember the source. Having been a judge for the county debate team, where the facts come from is very important. You have to try to remember where those facts come from to really drive your point home. Your question was to open or shut your mouth. And I put myself in your shoes at that moment because I am a mother of 4 kids, 2 who are in virtual school, and 1 who last week the teacher said to us via email that this child too might be better off in virtual school. That his whole year of being in public school is determined on this test. And they don't know if he's gonna pass this test because he failed the first one. And it is March when we got the news. And I put it in God's hands, so I'm in that situation. However, this is the first time I share the flip side of the coin of your question. I encourage you, because of the topic that you chose, to share facts on both flip sides of the coin, to allow the audience to make their own determination based on the facts for both sides. A suggestion for your next upcoming project, Persuade with Power, Project 9. You can check out kveller.com. I had to look it up, kveller.com. She is the daughter of Lake Mary Life magazine, and she has a flip side story that could help you. Overall, you had fantastic tone, excellent presence. You were poised, well dressed, you had fabulous eye contact, and if I wasn't evaluating you, I would have thought it was awesome, because it was. So I look forward to your next speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Erika. Next up, we will have competent communicator Jorge Friegels evaluating Gus Davis' speech. Jorge.
Thank you, Master Evaluator. Morning, morning, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and especially Gus, who I've had the pleasure of evaluating many times during both of our tenures here during this club. Let me start out by saying that entertaining speeches and Gus just go together. You have already, and you know this from all of your speeches, you just have a way of drawing people in very easily. Great energy, great body movement, great eye contact, just everything about the way that you're poised up here and present. Nothing wrong with any of that. And for a speech like this, it worked out wonderfully because you grabbed us right from the start and it didn't let go. And especially with such a serious, it was such a lighthearted take on such a very serious and possibly scary disease. And when you told us about, you kind of gave us a preview of this last week, I was so excited to hear about the speech. And when I saw that was the title of your speech today, I knew right away that this was going to be, and I was very excited to hear the speech. And I wasn't let down. It was entertaining from start to finish. It was, the objectives of the speech was first to entertain, which you obviously did by looking around the room. There was not one person that was not focused on you 100% of the time. The second part was to organize for maximum impact, and you got everyone's attention right out of the gate. You kept it through. The organization was very chronological, which I liked. It was easy to follow. I think the only comments I would have for improvement was that the ending felt a little rushed, and probably because this was such, take time flies when you're having fun. This is such a fun speech and such an entertaining speech, and you wanted to pack so much into it that I think at times you were just a little bit rushed, and it made the ending feel a little bit rushed. But overall, I thought it was fantastic. It was good to see that you didn't, as you were sharing the details of what you did when you came back, that you didn't languish during your 21-day quarantine period or checkup period. You mixed in humor again with the fact that you messed up and accidentally said quarantine, and that caused you to have to go through all these other procedures. So you really laid it out very clear and easy for people in a comedic way. It was also good to hear that the government is so organized that they actually had you. They were calling you right when you got back. Usually that's not what you associate with a government agency of that size. You think, oh, we'll get back to him in 10 days. It's good to know that they're really on top of watching the Ebola, keeping track of everyone coming in from these Ebola hotspots. And I know just personally, I shared when I was coming back from Italy, I was sitting next to a gentleman from Ghana, and I even got the same. As soon as I was talking to him, he said, oh, I'm coming back from Ghana. I said, oh, okay. And I picked up my phone, Ebola hotspot. So it's definitely something very relevant and a great approach to get that information out there and make everybody less afraid of the disease in a very comedic and lighthearted way. So, fantastic job, absolutely very entertaining.
Our final evaluator will be giving us his comments on our Toastmasters theme, which was actually a project in itself, introducing at networking events and how she introduced everyone here who spoke today. So we will have Advanced Toastmaster Gold, Stephen Morgan.
Hi, I'm Brad. I'm here to evaluate Brad. Because we're all named Brad, I heard. You have just been witness to the strangest project in the Toastmasters curriculum. It is the Introduce the Speaker project from the Specialty Speeches Manual. It's the most strangest in the sense because it's not a speech. There is no opening body conclusion. The goal of this is to introduce the speakers within the meeting. Therefore, each introduction becomes its own little mini speech, or at least its own little mini goal. What I am here to explain to Alexandra, what you have done so well with this is the introductions that you crafted. For each of the speakers, you had a lot of fun, obviously, doing. And she had them put together. She was referring to them as she was reading them. For each of the speakers, she also made use of it for the Table Topics Master and then for the General Evaluator. What I had noticed with all that you had put together, you had done a particularly good job. As you're going through it, you had a good structure for each of the introductions. You also added a crescendo as you're getting to the end of each of them, so you ended up loudest at their name. Perfect. Exactly what you want to do, because you want to build up the energy for everyone, and that's a great way to build up that energy. You had a particular point of referencing for each of them their Toastmasters experience, and you also pointed out personal and professional experiences for each of them. Now, a few things I can suggest for you. You got tripped up a little bit on the language barrier at one point, on Martin's introduction, when you were saying he had been a member of Toastmasters. The English should have been he has been, unless you're actually saying he no longer is. Which is the one thing I particularly noticed. That was a language barrier. And if he wasn't okay, if you weren't sure he was okay with what you were saying, might want to avoid saying. Because you were, if that was part of the joke, that's fine. That's what I would have assumed there. For the second introduction, when you were getting to the great positive force that you had described there for Gus, you had lots of superlatives that you were adding in there, and it was a great setup. What could have been added for the introductions for the speakers would have been, if they needed it or had asked for it, more of a segue, a lead into their actual topic. There was no reference to the actual topic other than the title of the speech. This came across fine because the introductions perfectly set up all the speakers, but if there was a way to add more to it, the introduction can add to their speech if they've got that added bit in there. Now, you knocked everything out of the park with Julia's introduction, as everyone evidenced, because by the time you were done, she was ready to cruise. You had the biggest challenge come Stephany's because she wasn't the one planned to be General Evaluator. So it was not quite the same, although you did make a point of adding in the Toastmaster experience and all the rest. You did an excellent job putting all of those together, but where is your introduction? I want to hear yours, because with all of that great setup, I want to hear more of it. You did a great job putting all of this together, and I would love to see all of us putting those kind of introductions together at every meeting.
Just heard from the master.
Yes.
All right. Word to the wise. We're going to ask for the technical table to tell us how we did with we make any money. I'm going to start with our timer, Kerri Bird.
For our speakers today, Martin, who had 5 to 7 minutes, and he was at 7:07. Gus, 5 to 7 minutes, and it was 7:48. Macarena, for table topics, was 57 seconds. Donna, 30 seconds. Me, 39 seconds. And our evaluators who had 2 to 3 minutes. Erika has 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Jorge, 3 minutes and 17 seconds. And Steven at 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right. Evaluators have a lot of good things to say this morning. I'll count.
Madam General Evaluator, we made a little money today.
I'm sure.
Actually, Alex has dramatically improved. 1 R and 2 ands, so 15 cents. Martin Bell, we have 1, 2, 3 R's, 1 you know, 3 so's, and 1 but, and there was a pause.
That's less than 47.
45.
That's a big improvement.
Gus, a great speech. We had 1 R, 6 so's, which makes 45 cents.
Wow.
Macarena, 1 but, 2 ands, 1 pause. That makes 3, 45, 20 cents. 3 times 5, it's 15 cents. I'm sorry. Kerri,
I'm the big winner.
3 R's, 3 so's, 1 but, and 3 ends, 55 cents. Stephany, 0, great job.
Actually, it wasn't, but I'll skate.
She just added 3 right there.
Oh. Erika, 1 you know and 4 ants brings it up to 25 cents. And Jorge, 1 you know and 1 ant, 10 cents. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you so much. Will Mary and Mike Hughes tell us what's going on?
Let me tell you what's going on. People use the word of the day. We got Alex, we got Gus, we got Erika, and we have Jorge.
And
Things. All right, things I found kind of interesting. Martin, open your mouth and shut your hole. I like that. Clever, sharp, to the point. Gus, I like vacillating. And don't send me an email, I might get infected. I thought that was
It was another mic.
And Jorge, entertaining speeches and Gus go together. I was like, they complement. So that's my report. Thank you very much. No evaluator.
No incorrect grammar today? No?
You know what, everyone's doing well. You're doing good.
Okay. So now, the most obvious observation was the room. Our sergeant at arms is not one that will let us languish in the same position, doing the same thing every week. Change the room around. However, it has its own flaw. Did anybody notice what it was? Besides, the technical table, where it is fine for the speakers, but with table topics, person, you have to come up here and face people because your back is to everybody and you can't see the timer. The other thing is, anyone coming in late, you did a great job of getting Macarena in like that, but they're right there, you can't grab anything, so what does that tell us? Gotta come on time, gotta come early. Get here on time and you can get what you need and get your seat. Alexandra, with this excellent theme of introducing everyone, it would have been a little helpful to you if you had the titles also on the agenda, especially for this project. You quickly filled vacant roles. This setup was innovative, it's new, and it can work if you come early. Yep. What are you saying back there?
That's mine.
I know it's mine. I'm saying back there.
Clear his throat a little bit.
The introductions, and they weren't overly long, especially for this project. And you made up things for people like me when I just gave you 2 lines, and not only you just made up something and it sounded terrific. I like the theme. I like the meeting, I like this morning's energy, and I do like things that are different, as long as they make sense. And with that, I will turn this lectern, or the control of this meeting, over to our president, competent communicator, Erika.
I see we have some new faces today who already gave us a little intro about her, but Donna, if you could introduce yourself again, and Zachary, and tell us how you got here today, that would be great. Tell us what you thought of the meeting.
Well, again, my name is Donna Kotler. The reason we came is because, like I mentioned, my son is valedictorian of his graduating class of the Police Academy of Information Technology. And he needs to do a speech. And he is a little on the shy side, and a little on the quiet side, which many valedictorians are. They spend their time in the books rather than with people. So we thought this could be a place of resource for us, where we may be able to listen to other people speak, or find somebody who may want to mentor him and help him write a speech, or have some resources that he could utilize to write a speech. And again, this is Zachary Brown, my son, and
Zachary, tell us what you thought of the meeting.
I thought it was really enlightening. I've heard about Toastmasters before, and it's something I've always sort of been interested in, but I've never really taken the step to come to a meeting. So I think coming here really, I learned what goes on, and it's something I'm definitely interested in joining, either here or later on once I go off to college, or beyond that, at some point, I definitely want to join Toastmasters.
Thank you for joining us.
Huh?
Open speaker slot next week,
Yeah.
is that right?
We have a competent communicator.
Waking up super early and joining us is a privilege, and having also been a judge the last 2 years for Lake Mary High School, there was a competition called Mr. and Miss Lake Mary, and it was a scholarship competition where young kids would have to, based on their GPA, on an essay, and then the last part, besides presentation, they had to give a speech. And I can't tell you, it just would break my heart where some, you wanted them to just get it, you know, you knew they needed that scholarship, but when they spoke, they didn't spend the time to properly prepare. So if you need to reach out to me or any of us, I'm sure we could give you some encouraging words. I don't think that you can give a wrong speech if it's a personal story, in my opinion. But if you notice today throughout the room, timing is probably the hardest part. Once you know your topic, you have to watch your time. So if I don't get to speak to you again, practice and time yourself so that you have an idea of where to go. And they're giving me the red flag here. Hey, I need my 46 minutes. We went over today. So next week's speech, or next week's meeting, Toastmaster Stephen Morgan.
Yep.
Macarena, speaker 1, Jorge Friegel, speaker 2. Topics, table talk, can't do it. Mike. General Evaluator, Gus. Evaluator 1, Ernst. Martin Bell, Evaluator 2 or 3, not sure which one yet. Are you planning on coming late? Did you sign up for 30 instead of 2? Just in case. Okay, and then I'll counter Julia. We still need a grammarian and timer, so if you are available, let us know or sign up on Easy Speak. I don't know if we collected any money today. I don't think so. No? Are we good? We can skip 1 week? All right, let's skip 1 week. I know you're anxious because you haven't been here a while. Any other commentaries throughout the week? I'm just happy to see everyone here this morning and I appreciate you coming as our guests. Any other comments? Money, dues. Anybody not pay their dues?
45 cents from Martin, 35 cents from Gus, Macarena 15 cents, 25
Talking
cents from
about
Erika.
the
Everyone here is
membership dues.
paid.
Everyone here has paid. That's what I think. All right, well, have a great week, everyone.
Thank you, thank you.
Coming.
Speakers, your evaluation.